This is the perfect RIA, in case you didn't know. Bringing you all the strategies to help your business grow. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Are you hanging on the edge of your seat? Sit back and listen in while you feel the beat, yeah! Another myth bites the dust.
Hello, TPR Nation. This is Amber Kuhn from the Perfect RIA. Thank you for joining me on today's Follow-Up Friday, where I'll be covering the highlights and action items from this week's episodes. On Monday, Matt and Micah were talking about how advisors sometimes approach them with this expectation that once they get an assistant, all their problems will go away. That there's a magical assistant who can do and fix everything. But in reality, there's more involved related to you as a leader than on the assistant themselves. So if you have a team that isn't delivering, whether that's a virtual assistant or full-time team members, you need to look to see your responsibility with the issues. Micah shared that he used to think that if he delegated a task, someone will automatically be able to get it done quicker and better than he could. But think about what that looks like. If you're delegating a task, something you may have years of experience on, and your delegation on it to someone else is just a one-liner to take care of it, think about what that really looks like. Matt equated it to garbage in, garbage out. So if you delegate poorly, understand that's the result you're going to get as well. They said a lot of this is around the work and the effort and the energy that you put into it. Matt and Micah then talked about the successes, mistakes they've made related to teams and delegations, as well as their recommendations. Matt shared an example of a situation between him and Colleen in his office, where Matt had asked her to do something, but he wasn't happy with the result. He said, you can think something in your mind and have one expectation, but you end up communicating a totally different expectation. Micah said sometimes you think you can be focused on being nice when you're communicating, but the result can be that it's actually not nice to create this ambiguous statement that your team members can't understand. You need to be crystal clear and also make sure that you give tasks in advance of you leaving. That way there's time for your team to come back with any follow-up questions. And there's clear expectations on the time commitment and what the outlook should look like. Along with this, Matt said that you need to give a safety valve for if they get stuck and make sure that you're not steamrolling through everything. And Micah recommends giving a range for when things should be completed and allowing your team to push back on things or ask about priorities. But a big key to that is you want your team to never just say no, but to lead with a yes. You also want to make sure that you set parameters around this. So if you're telling a team member something is a top priority, but they're spending hours and hours and not making progress, instead give them a time frame to work within so that they know if they haven't made progress within that time, they can connect back with you. They also said to think about what your template is for creating tasks and delegating tasks. Now, that system needs to work for you, and then it also needs to work for the team member. For Micah, however he delegates a task, his assistant is responsible for taking those tasks and adding them to their check-in sheet in a format they can then review. And that includes the name, description, who the task is assigned to, when it's expected to get done, and any notes. And that allows Micah to look at everything and see what is a priority and what isn't. Matt shared that he uses OneNote internally at Jarvis Financial, and then with his executive assistant, he uses a spreadsheet. The guys then talked about how when you're hiring team members, there are really only two problems you'll have, either a process problem or a people problem. If it's a people problem, then they likely weren't put into a role they could succeed in. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person. When it's a process problem, it could be that you aren't being respectful of their time or deadlines, or you aren't reviewing timelines, and you have to create a process that your team can be successful in. So you can't say that you want to have a well-functioning team and then not lead them effectively. You need to pick what kind of practice you want, what life you want, and what sacrifices you're willing to make. Micah said, imagine if you were to walk into a team meeting as if it were a client meeting. Think about what priority you put on your team meetings and what message that sends. So if you're showing up late, you're canceling meetings, or you're not being professional, it sends a message to the rest of the team that maybe they aren't important or the company isn't important enough. And then in turn, that's going to impact how the team handles things, such as client meetings. You are setting the precedent of how those meetings should be set up and how they should be run every single time you're there or not. Matt said it's easy to look at team members as just job doers, and you forget that those are people with concerns and goals and insecurities, and they want to be acknowledged for what they do. So if you don't show up for meetings, you're implying that the work that they do isn't important. And they said another part of this is not just treating team members with respect, but being super clear on expectations. And if they don't make those expectations, what are the consequences of those actions? The guys said that you also need to create an environment and culture where team members can come to you when they need help, where you can support them and also have boundaries for success. When your team is having a problem, you want them to be able to say what the issue is and see if there's something you can work through. Another part of this is the guys will look for language being used by the team member when an expectation of something wasn't getting done, and whether they're taking responsibility for it or whether they're blaming you. Because if they are, then that becomes a people problem. They said you really need to have a clear criteria for when you're working with team members. What are deal breakers and what are things that you need to invest a little more education with your team members? A deal breaker would be not taking responsibility or lying or hiding things. If a team member owns something, then you have an education opportunity. So if you have a team member with the right characteristics and the basic capabilities, almost everything can be educated. Let's get into action items. There are still some virtual seats available for the Retirement Tax Services Tax Summit this September, where Matt and Micah will be speaking at as well. Write out a list of all the things that you're doing and then put a star next to which items somebody else could do other than you. And this isn't easy because you're going to want to justify what you're doing. Once you have that list, reach out to Belay by texting RIA to 55123 to get their ebook on virtual assistants. And you can work with someone from their team to see what on the task list can actually be delegated. Look at what you're doing to be proactive with your team to help with training. Also, join us on October 18th for our Nation Power Session on moving your practice forward. Visit theperfectra.com/power session to save your spot. On Wednesday, Matt was joined again by Libby Greiwe from The Efficient Advisor. Libby was one of our earlier guests, so if you haven't listened to her first episode, you can go back and check out that episode in Wednesday's show notes. Libby's focused on systems and processes and grew an incredible practice with 2,800 clients, which she then sold, and now she helps other advisors how to implement systems and processes in their practice. She was on the show to talk about themes and variations on themes. Libby shared how she wanted to become an indispensable advisor to the people that she was working with and go really deep with the client experience. By working in themes, it allowed her to get deep with clients on a particular topic and be able to slow down the financial planning process and then take that time to educate and teach clients. She wanted to pivot from having a proactive review to making that more strategic and having a theme for the year, which would include agendas for meetings and value adds, and then figure out how to build systems and processes that would allow her to deliver that theme. Once they started doing the same thing for everyone, it then made it easier for the entire team. Now, by doing this, they were able to streamline the process, and they were doing the same things over and over again, and they were able to free up that mental bandwidth to really be with the client in that moment. She said that allows you to have those deeper discussions. Libby likes doing an annual theme and then building value adds and content to support that. She said sometimes that means revisiting a topic and then reminding the client of what they're doing to help. Part of that also includes helping to ensure that a client does what they say they're going to do. That it's not just about giving all this great advice and recommendation, only to learn that the client never did anything with it. It's about slowing down and educating them, as well as helping the client see that you are also focused on something years down the road, and you're being proactive about creating solutions for the future. Matt said it's easy for advisors to feel that they need to go in so many different directions, but if you have this theme and you're doing the same thing for every client, it ensures you're having those touch points with them, and you get better at it because you're doing it over and over again. Libby, lastly, she said that by adding that education, it helps add that value to clients. And she said you can come back to the same topics, but with a different lens. Let's get into action items. You can visit Libby now twice a week on the Efficient Advisor podcast or on the Efficient Advisor community on Facebook, which is for advisors and operations people. And also be sure to check her out on LinkedIn. On Thursday, Jamie kicked off our episode by describing the potential aftermath of a child or a young person making a meal, specifically making a huge mess in the kitchen, and who is then responsible for that cleanup. She equated this to the same when it comes to hiring employees, and that if you're the one who's to clean up the mess, then you're the one who also gets a say in how hiring is being structured. Jamie talked a bit about the EOS system and the relationship between a visionary and an integrator in getting execution on ideas. She said visionaries can come up with a million ideas, but when things are going right, they'll keep going to see what would it be like if things don't work successfully. That integrator can remind the visionary what they need to be focused on and shoot down bad ideas and get everyone back on track. Visionaries also love to be involved in the hiring of people, not the mechanics, but with coming up with a job offer because they're so excited, but they tend to make a lot of promises that an integrator needs to clean up. So for the visionaries, you need an integrator or someone who handles ideas, not with a no. You want them to lead with a yes, but that's someone who can also explain that by moving forward with certain ideas, other things might suffer or priorities might need to change. That allows the visionary to step back and realize whether something is worth it or not. With recruiting employees, Jamie said you need to think about what does your one-page job offer look like, and think about what you're offering people. As a visionary, you get excited about ideas and possibilities, but you need to be connected with someone who can help you see the other side of this and figure out what is possible and work together so that you can still have all the yeses in the world, but that it doesn't lead to a situation where you've made a lot of promises and someone else has to clean it up. So when they're hiring at Shalansky & Associates, they're not talking with the new advisor about ownership in the year of them joining their firm. They said this isn't about abundance. It's about because you haven't earned it. Instead, an advisor should come in talking about how they want to train and be a part of the firm's growth, but understand that you're not entitled to that growth right away because ownership isn't about the great parts and the accolades. It's about the risk involved. And as an owner, you're not just responsible for yourself and your family, you're now responsible for all those other individuals in your office. When Jamie's making an offer, she's not promising things that she doesn't have the intention on following through with. Instead, she wants to have an intentional conversation over what she's willing and not willing to do, as well as what she expects from that person. Another area where she's seen people get into trouble is by offering unlimited vacation because she sees both sides to this. Those who want to use all of that vacation, which means any time outside of surge, and those who refuse to take time off. So when someone's joining their firm, it's not okay for someone to feel entitled and think that they automatically will get to be an owner and that they've earned that right. So with offers, they're very clear about what someone is getting as well as what they're not getting. She'll let them know what opportunities are available as well as what they're willing to invest into those people and what she expects in return. She said with those potential employees who are the right people, they see that opportunity and they're all in and those are the right fit and the right ones for that job. Let's get into action items. Look at what your job offer is for financial advisors and employees, and do you have this written down somewhere to where an integrator or an operations person can look at it and make sure it's aligned with what's actually being offered with existing employees? If it isn't aligned, then look to see how you can make that happen. Look at what your compensation will be and know it can be outside of additional income, such as personal development or technology bonuses. That wraps up this week's recap. Thank you for joining me on today's Follow-Up Friday. Please share this or any of our episodes with another advisor or a team member who you think might benefit from listening. Until next time, happy planning.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and wife.